on Health Matters Television for Life. Resolving to lose weight in the new year. If you've made it your goal to eat healthier in 2015, then this show is for you. Learn tips on cooking light from culinary instructor Chef Curtis Smith. Join us in the KSPS kitchen for an hour of food and fun with recipes for real people, plus your questions and phone calls. Right now on Health Matters.
Health Matters is made possible by viewers like you, the friends of KSPS, and by the following.
My name is Beth Perez, and I am a registered nurse, and I work at Holy Family Hospital on the labor and delivery unit. I'm about to have my second child, and I chose Providence because I love and trust the people that I work with, and why wouldn't I seek care from people that I love and trust?
I'm Arnie Peterson, and I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and I work at Sacred Heart for Providence Medical Group. When I needed my hip replaced, I chose Providence because of the professionalism and the care that I knew I'd receive. I never thought twice about going anywhere else.
Good evening, I'm Teresa Lukens. As you can see, things look a little different tonight. We are in the KSPS kitchen to bring you a show devoted to healthy eating, and it all begins with the food. So here tonight, cooking for us is Chef Curtis Smith.
Hello.
Chef Smith is an instructor at the Inland Northwest Culinary Academy at Spokane Community College. And before we meet our other expert panel tonight to help us get on a healthy start, let's find out what we're going to be cooking tonight. I love this concept.
Great. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. We're going to be making some soup. 3 soups, actually. So I've kind of been thinking of it as we're going to be turning a beast into a beauty. So you're going to be seeing some strange spices. We're going to be burning some food.
Really?
Yeah,
on
that'll
purpose.
actually be result in something nice, and we'll see what happens.
You know, when
Hopefully
we
you'll like
said
it.
healthy cooking, healthy eating, why did you decide on soup?
Well, I like soup because I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I like to make soups often that are we're going to be making basically broth style soups, and they're usually very high protein. We're going to get some fiber into them, and probably stay away from the creamy, really rich buttery soups tonight.
Okay,
all right?
that's a great idea. So let's meet our other expert panel this evening. I do want to introduce them to us at the KSPS table, along with sharing their expertise. They're going to be sampling the delicious soups we're making tonight. Lisa Randall is a registered dietitian and certified diabetes instructor. She works at Inland Northwest Health Services. Lynette Giese is a registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator with over 30 years of experience in clinical nutrition, and she works at Providence Sacred Heart Medical Center and Children's Hospital. Ladies, thanks so much for being here. Great night for you to be here too with the wonderful soup. Why do you like the idea that we're cooking soup tonight?
I really like soup. I cook a lot of soup. It's something you have control over the ingredients. You know what's in it. It's easy to do. You can cook a lot at one time and then eat it later. And
it's great to freeze.
Gets better with age.
Yeah, it absolutely does. You can, if you're busy, it's something
Right.
great to grab for lunch
Right.
all week long if you make a big pot of it on Sunday. And why is homemade then better than, say, a can of soup?
Oh my gosh, your soups are great. They're lower in sodium and they've got fresh vegetables in them.
So yeah, as long as you're getting control of sodium, you're going to be in a lot better shape. So
All right, well,
yeah.
let's get started.
Well, what we're going to start off with, I think, is something that a lot of who were just talking about before we started about rotisserie chickens, that we all like to stop and get a rotisserie chicken. So I'm starting off with my rotisserie chicken leftovers. So I
Something
think
we'd normally toss.
This is what probably a lot of people find on their counter after they have dinner, and this goes into the garbage, right?
Usually, yeah.
Okay, so my family kind of laughs at me because I just, as an instructor, a chef instructor, I cannot throw this away. It's just as painful to me to watch this flavor get thrown into a garbage can. So I've got to do something with it. So what I figured out a few years ago was I found my friend the crock pot.
Yes,
So for
another great tool.
Once again, as a professional chef, I think we look at crock pots, and I would, when I was younger, I'd see just people piling a bunch of frozen food in them and turning them on and walking away, and I'm like, that's not good cooking. But then I realized they're phenomenal for making stock, and it can do all the work overnight for me. So I don't do it all day. I do the stocks all night. So what we're going to do is basically describe the simplest way to make a chicken stock at home which I consider to be very little work. So all you need is 2 ingredients. Leftover chicken bones, whatever you don't eat, don't throw it in the garbage. I don't even throw it, you can throw the string in.
And you keep all the pieces of fat and everything in there?
Everything.
Okay.
Because the fat eventually will rise to the surface and we can skim all that away
Okay.
later. So it's not going to stay there. We can do what we want. So what I did last night in preparation for the show is we had rotisserie chicken at my house.
Of course you did.
And afterwards we took the bones and just popped them into a crock pot. And then whether you have 1 or 2 chickens, I always buy 2 because I'm already planning in advance for future meals. So all the bones go into the crock pot, and then all you do is cover it with water, about 1 inch of water, and then I put the lid on and let it go all night long. So we're going to pretend that we've done that.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to move on.
All right, which it looks beautiful, by the way, too. It's so rich looking and delicious
All
here
right,
in the pan.
so you've got to have a couple possibly unique pieces of equipment here.
All right.
So a big bowl
A giant
and some
bowl.
sort of a colander. I have a fine mesh colander, but any colander will do. Even if a few chunks go through, it'll be okay, because no bones will go through.
Okay.
So you want me to do the honors?
Sure,
It's kind of hot.
absolutely.
All
I'll
right.
let you do that.
So in the morning, after you get up, first have a cup of coffee, then go get your stock. And what I'm going to do is just pour it right in there.
Strain all the goodies out.
So it's going to look a little bit ugly for maybe a few minutes. All right, now I'm going to set that right back there.
And the idea tonight is that we're going to use this stock to make a few different kinds of soup, but from the same basic stock.
Yes, the first one I'm going to have you taste in a minute. This is just a water and rotisserie chicken bone. So then what's unique is that the chicken bones are already seasoned. So I'm going to have you taste this in a minute, and it's already going to be wonderful. But we're going to just even make it better into a soup. The first soup we're making is what I like to call secret ingredient chicken noodle soup. Because a few years ago, my wife made some chicken noodle soup, and I was eating it, and there was something about it that was just so good. Like, honey, what'd you put in this? She's like, well, try to figure it out, because that's her. See if you can figure it out, chef. So
The challenge is on.
I couldn't do it. I said, there's something in here that's not in normal chicken soup. So I'm going to come over to that sink, all right?
I'll let you do that.
Just a quick move, and we can let that drain there. All right, so this is just a basic chicken stock. Let's have you taste it, all right?
Oh, all right. So, and why again? I mean, obviously I can tell by looking at it that it's got a richness to it and
Right.
probably a lot more flavor than, say, the stock
right.
I would buy at the grocery store.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it's going to be
And less sodium
much
too,
richer.
that sort of thing?
Well, go ahead and taste, see what you think. If it's already tastes good
delicious,
already?
yeah,
All right, so
absolutely.
let's make it
Really
into
good.
secret ingredient chicken
Okay.
noodle soup. So it is going to have some sodium because the sodium from the chicken, so they come already seasoned. So if you were wanting to cut back on sodium, I would probably just add more water when you start. So if you use more water, it'll be a little
It'll
less salty.
dilute it a little
Right.
bit more.
So we're going to pour this right into our pot. Actually, let's
And
see
ladies,
here.
because we're talking about sort of jump starting our health for the year, getting healthier, some of us want to lose a few pounds along with that. What are some of the mistakes people make, because it's about now that we start falling off of that resolution that we've made? What are some of the things that trip us up when we've decided at the beginning of the year to eat healthy and change the way we eat? What trips us up? Are we putting too much pressure on ourselves?
I think one of the things is we try to do too much. Rather than picking one small goal and working toward it, we try to conquer it all.
We say I'm going to lose 20 pounds instead of a pound at a time.
Right. And choose, are you going to do more physical activity? Or are you going to choose to eat more fruits and vegetables rather than trying to restrict your food? Maybe try to eat more fruits and vegetables, and then as you move forward with that, then start cutting out some of the higher calorie, low nutrient density foods.
Well, and you may even find that you automatically start to cut those out. If you're adding other things, you're going to get full on fruits and vegetables, and you're going to want the higher carb and sugars that maybe we were eating before.
And that's what I like to say, is to start your meal with some fruit or vegetables, because you have a tendency to eat less at that meal if you do that.
And some experts will say even start with soup because it fills you up so much.
Yeah,
And
even a simple bowl of broth, drinking that. I mean, there's a reason why they serve it in hospitals. It's high protein, good for you, but it probably gets a bad rap in hospitals. So we're gonna jazz it up quite a bit. But it is very filling, high in protein, and lower in fat, especially because we can skim the fat off.
Okay.
All right. So you want to keep going with this
Yep,
then?
let's do it.
All right. Let's do a classical cooking quiz. Do you know what onions, celery, and carrots
Well,
equal?
I do because I cheated.
Oh, okay.
I actually asked your students that were here.
Oh, okay.
They gave me that
All right.
information. More. Now I can't say it.
Mirepoix.
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 French,
So
I assume.
It's a French term
Okay.
for carrots, celery, and onions. So you only have to say one word for 3 things. So we're going to go ahead and just dump these in. Carrots, celery, and onions. So that's going to flavor our broth more.
So you don't need to saute those first. You just go right into the broth.
You could, but we're trying to keep that as simple as
That's
possible.
right. Because
so
if we saute, we may be adding butter or oil.
that's true.
Okay.
And so if this just simmers for a while until it's tender, we'll be fine. So
Okay.
usually when you're what we call that sweating at first. When you're sweating, you're creating flavor, but we've got so much flavor in the stock already, we're going to be set. So I've got my mirepoix in there. So from there, all I need to do is, I'm going to borrow this spoon right here. We're going to stir that up, and we're going to add chicken. So if you can reserve some chicken, even if you don't have chicken, it's still going to be awesome. So you don't even have to worry about chicken. So in goes the chicken. And the noodles will take a while to cook. I pre-cook these so that we can speed up.
Okay.
And that goes
Just
in.
an egg noodle?
Egg noodle. Was just talking with somebody before I came on set who is a celiac or eats gluten-free. So far, I mean, we're gluten-free until we get to the noodles, but now there's a lot more options for gluten-free noodles are available. So that's an easy fix. So at this point, we want to let that simmer for a while. To let our mirepoix get tender. If you wanted to, I mentioned in the recipe, now the recipes are all on the website, right?
Yes, they are, absolutely, at ksps.org. Already posted there, ready to go.
So we've got a bay leaf that's going in, so now we're getting a little bit more traditional French in stock and a little
Okay.
bit of dry thyme. So now we let that go, and that's going to simmer until it's tender. So I brought along a little show and tell here of when you make the stock in the morning and then you let it cool and you come back later that day to maybe do something else with it, we're going to see if you made good stock. And so dig into that. Or
It's very gelatinous.
there you go. There, you got the word now, gelatinous. So see
Okay,
how
yeah.
jello-like
Is
that
this what you took off the soup?
That was stock that I made last night for this show.
And
So see-
we don't want to eat this part, do we?
Well, no,
Is
you
it-
don't want to get cold, but I'm
Well,
saying
no, but I mean-
when you come in after your stock cools,
Yeah.
you should have this jiggly jello-like stock, and that's a sign that you've done a good job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, I thought this might be the part that we wanted to discard.
No, that's the good stuff.
The good part.
That's liquid
Okay.
gold right there.
Okay.
So no, I was just wanting to show you.
Oh, okay.
Some people might be surprised when their stock
When they
cools,
see it.
they're going to see this jello-like substance, and I don't want them to be scared. That's
Okay.
good.
And once you heat it up, it just
Oh, it
melts
just
away.
turns back to this again.
Yeah, beautiful,
so we're set.
beautiful.
So this needs to simmer for a while, and we're going to come back a little later and add our 2 secret ingredients.
Do you find, as a chef and as a type 1 diabetic, that you obviously you have to cook and eat differently?
Sure.
Do you teach differently then?
A little
you
bit. I
find
use the
both?
diabetic angle to talk how eating affects me. From a chef instructor standpoint, we always start with the basics. The classical French cuisine, that's the foundational cuisine. Then we go from there to other ethnicities and things like that. But towards the end of the program is where we start focusing on vegetarian, vegan. We definitely include gluten-free options on all our menus. So those are becoming so much more common now that we want to make sure we send students out into the world that are ready for that.
Absolutely.
Ready to either create menus that accommodate those things or be ready to change menus immediately. If somebody walks in who has a special request, we need to not say no, we have to say yes, here's what we'll do to change, and we'll be set. So every day in the restaurant, the students have to adjust based on special requests.
Much more than they used to, I think.
Oh,
It's-
absolutely,
yeah,
for sure.
And diabetes is probably one of the #1 health concerns we have in this country right now. You were mentioning some staggering numbers to me earlier.
Diabetes is, I don't even know what the percentage of people that have diabetes is now, but it's very high, and it's often related to obesity. Our obesity numbers have skyrocketed, which leads to type 2 diabetes.
So how should we change the way we eat to avoid getting into that trap?
Well, like she said, it's a lot of times related to weight. So, you know, it's like people like to think that sugar causes diabetes or, or you know, fat, whatever. But it's pretty much if we're related to weight. So, we need to eat less calories, and certainly eating less sugar and less man-made saturated fats is a better way to go.
It's going to help just automatically.
Right, and be more physically active.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, those are the keys. You talked about less calories and physically active, because when I often get asked to create diabetic recipes, and I often laugh because diabetics really need to eat like everybody else needs to eat. I'm not a fan of recipes that substitute sweet and low or equal or all these fake things. I want to eat high quality, hopefully homemade food, but eat less. You know, Western culture and our society is all about trying to figure out how to eat as much as we can, or how to get as much as we can when we buy a meal, and that's too bad. We want to eat quality and eat less. And you know, I've struggled with weight my whole life, but I know from experience that if I am eating less and exercising, I lose weight. So we're always trying to figure out the secret or what foods to eliminate. But if we eat in moderation, and I like to just walk, so I just walk out my front door and walk a couple miles, and I don't have to go to a gym.
Yeah.
Gyms are great.
It's
but,
very simple,
We just
very
keep
simple
moving and eat a
formula.
little less. I mean,
Well, and we're depending too much on processed foods. You know, we already
sure.
talked about canned soup versus scratch soup. We're on the go, and we need to be focusing more on scratch-made, homemade foods.
And that's why soups are nice, because like Lisa said, you can make a lot of soup and freeze it and use it for other meals.
Yeah, I find too that, you know, spending a Sunday afternoon doing some cooking, and again, either in the freezer or in the fridge for the rest of the week, if my family's on the go, is going to make a huge difference.
absolutely.
Okay, how's our soup doing?
Well, I think it has a few more minutes, but what I want to do is I want to start our next stock.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take our stock pot, and we're going to pretend we're getting ready to make our next soup. All right? So our next soup is an African peanut and kale soup.
This one really got my
How does-
attention.
got-
Yeah,
okay.
it sounds really
Oh, there's
delicious.
going to be peanut butter, and I can't imagine the soup not being
gotta be good.
with peanut butter. So here is an example of what you're going to do after dinner. Better visual example. So we're going to dump all that in there, and then
not pretty.
No, it's not pretty. So that's why it will be later. And then for the African soup, I need some more unusual ingredients. I kind of tried to make an example here of what's going in this. So we've got sweet potatoes going in this. So now, besides the high protein of the stock, now we're getting great fiber in here. So that's
And beautiful
great.
color too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that
So as a
brightens
diabetic,
it
I'm
up.
always looking at fiber also, because I don't want my blood sugar to go up. So if I'm looking at how many carbohydrates I'm consuming, I know that if I'm combining fiber, it won't spike as quickly. I mean, when you're looking at nutritional labels, you can actually subtract the fiber, and then all us diabetics are doing math in our head of how many carbohydrates we're eating, and then how much insulin we need to take, and things like that. So fiber is always, so if we can have fiber and flavor, we're doing well. So with this African peanut and kale soup, it's based on a broth with sweet potatoes. We've got fresh ginger. We're going to have peanuts and peanut butter, cilantro, ginger, and then curry powder. So a lot of
It's kind of it has a little bit of an
sweet and
Indian influence to it.
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. So I'm going to go get my ingredients back here, and we'll bring them up.
It's really important too to bring all the senses into play, especially because when people say, well, I'm going to start eating healthier, it almost sounds negative. We kind of turn off the senses, but if you can present food that smells good and is beautiful to look at, you're going to be more likely to eat it and become actually, more attracted to that than you would, say, a hamburger from a fast food restaurant.
Yeah, a lot of our processed foods, or a lot of the easy fixing foods have a lot of sugar and a lot of salt, and so we get used to those flavors,
Yeah.
and we kind of miss
It's an
out on some
addiction.
of these really, you miss out on some of these things like the curries and the spices.
And introducing some of those new flavors that maybe you didn't have in your diet before.
And the different colors are nice too, because the different colored vegetables and fruits provide different nutrients that are healthful.
So when I look at my plate, if soup is one thing, I'm going to have a big bowl of soup with all these great things in it. But when I look at a plate, how do I want that plate to look, especially portion-wise and color-wise, for better nutrition and even weight loss?
So I always think the rainbow. A rainbow of colors is a good choice. So the blues and the reds and the greens and the oranges. And then with your starches, try to choose starchy foods that are high in fiber, because that's going to slow down the rise in your blood sugar and it's going to keep you full longer. Fiber is your friend. Fiber keeps us full longer. It fills us up and doesn't cause as much weight gain. It helps prevent weight gain, helps with weight loss.
And we have trouble with portion control also. We're eating way too much. We mentioned that. So how do we gauge how much we should be eating?
Well, another way to look at a plate too is, we look at a plate and half your plate should be vegetables, and not the
Half.
starchy vegetables.
Half your plate.
Half your plate should be vegetables. And the nice colored ones are nice. And then the starch being a smaller portion, quarter of the plate, and then your protein is the quarter of the plate. So kind of look at a plate like that. And when you eat half of your plate as vegetables, you have a tendency to eat a lot less calories. It takes a long time to eat salads and vegetables when you have to chew them, and it slows down the process. If you eat something that's very high, dense carbohydrate, especially say like a bagel, people like to think that bagels are really healthy, but bagels are
I'm shaking my head.
the diabetic
Getting a
is
look
shaking
over
their head.
here.
I love bagels, but it's like a once a
you-
year thing for me.
Right.
They're so packed. I mean, they're so
Nutrient
dense of
They
carbohydrate.
are so carbohydrate
Yep.
dense. So yeah, a lot of times that's one of the first things I'm like, let's cut the bagel in maybe a quarter of the bagel, not even a half, And
Yeah,
Eating
that's
a
a
bagel is
special
like
occasion
eating-
treat for me, for
Right.
sure.
It's like eating 4 slices of bread.
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a lot. Keep that in mind.
My daughter discovered that a number of years ago. She's type 1 diabetic too.
Oh.
And she loves bagels and was just amazed at how high her blood sugar was a couple hours later. And yeah, it is like 4 pieces of bread.
Wow, so this is a challenge in your whole family.
My mother, myself, and my daughter were all
Wow.
type 1 diabetic. She was diagnosed when she was 10. Oh, wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all over the place in my
Yeah,
family.
well, and certainly, again, something we all need to be concerned with.
All right, so our secret ingredient chicken noodle soup is almost done.
Did you ever tell me what the secret ingredient was?
No, we haven't got there yet. It's almost done.
right.
All right. So, but here's an example
letting you go without that secret
of,
ingredient.
what you can do when you're making stock. And if the first one, all we did was pour water.
Right.
So the next one, we're going to put curry powder in. So we're just going to do it all at the beginning. Curry
Okay.
powder
Looks
goes
like
in.
a couple tablespoons there.
Yeah.
All right.
And we've got some cayenne. We're going to keep this a little light on the cayenne.
Again, want to
Although we're
remind you
not gonna
too
be
that
eating
the
this.
recipes are at the website ksps.org, all ready to go.
Okay. So we've got garlic going in. And we've got a whole bunch of ginger, so we
now
want
it's
it
starting to
heavy on the
smell really
ginger.
good.
Yeah, you can already smell
Yeah,
it. And we haven't even
absolutely.
started cooking yet.
Yeah.
So, with that, we just cover it with water once again, let it go overnight, and we end up with a different stock. It's a little different taste. So let's get you a spoon
Got a
for
little
that.
spoon. You've
There
got
you
the
go.
cutest little
Dig
tasty
in. Aren't
spoons.
these cute?
Yeah, these
Yeah.
are cute. Okay. This has a much richer color to it. You can see the curry influence
in
in
there.
there, yeah. Now see, that's
Tastes
really
good?
good. Yeah, it's got a little kick to it.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of
A
that
little
cayenne,
kick to it. I
so we're
love
doing
that.
good.
Got a little heat in there.
So it's
very
just a
tasty.
little different ingredients thrown in, we get a different result. And so now, all we've got to do is, once again, we're just going to dump in the rest of the ingredients, and then we'll go back to our chicken noodle. So we're going to put in our sweet potatoes. So that's why I have students help me, because they chop everything up for me.
Did you grade them on that, by the way? They're perfectly chopped.
No, they did a great job. So I'm going to put that in, and then I'm also going to put my kale in, so we have that all chopped up as well.
Kale is sort of the it food right now. Why is kale so great?
It's a good source of antioxidants and fiber, vitamin C.
It's
it's a
very similar
superfood.
to, would you equate it to sort of spinach if people haven't tried it yet? It's got a kind of an earthy flavor to it.
I would think even a little bit more earthy than
Spinach, yeah.
And it holds up in soups
Yeah,
much
it does
better.
hold
It
up,
does.
yeah.
So it's got a lot more texture. It does need to cook longer. So Spinach basically wilts in a couple seconds, but we got to cook this a little bit longer. But we've got our kale in there now and our sweet potatoes. We're going to add a little bit of brown sugar to this, so a little bit of sweetness. And then the peanut butter needs to go in.
Are you using like an organic peanut butter? Or?
Actually, I stopped at the grocery store the other day where I can, they have the cool machine where you just grind it yourself.
Yeah.
I love that
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
So that's what I got. But
Excellent.
any peanut butter will work. But
Okay.
once again, I like this because it's not full of sugar. I can control if we put a little sugar in, but all this is peanuts and a little salt. So let's put our 1/4 cup in there.
Again, smells really good.
Yeah.
You really have to read the label of peanut butters.
You do.
There's some that do have a lot of sugar. Don't
And
you?
hydrogenated fats. You want to stay away from the peanut butters with hydrogenated fats.
Sure. Okay, so our peanut butter's in there. We're going to let that come to a boil, and that peanut butter will melt, so we should be in good shape there. Oh, I did forget our coconut milk. So we're adding some coconut milk. So a lot of times people associate coconut milk with Thai cooking, but we're going to be using this for our African peanut and kale soup. So in goes our coconut milk.
Is this sort of replacing then a cream you might put into a cream-based sauce?
Absolutely.
Or a soup?
So it's going to add richness. We definitely have fat in here. So I'm not a big fan of eliminating things. I don't think fat is terrible. It depends on what kinds of fats and how much you eat. So this one's going to be probably our richest soup of the day, but it doesn't have heavy cream. It does have, it's not animal fat, it's coconut. So it's going to add richness. This is like a traditional full fat coconut milk. You can buy light coconut milk as well, so that option is there as well. So we're going to get that going. That'll add richness. So it's already looking a little creamy.
And you actually broke down the nutritional values on Chef Curtis's
I did.
soups tonight.
I
You want to
did.
share some of that information, especially on this one with the coconut
Well,
milk in it.
this African peanut kale soup is 390 calories in 1.5 cups, 23
very good.
grams of fat, which if you're aiming for around 60 grams of fat, that fits into a healthful plan. No cholesterol, 350 milligrams of sodium, which is great. 43 grams of carbohydrate and 9 grams of protein.
And you're getting all kinds of nutrition packed in there too. Absolutely.
Good. All right, so you ready for secret ingredients?
Yes,
All right, good.
absolutely.
So the 2 secret ingredients that I could not figure out were a little bit of brown sugar. Not much.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm not putting all this in there. Just a hint of brown sugar. So it's got a hint of sweetness.
I don't even think that was a tablespoon you put in there.
No,
Yeah,
just,
very little
just
bit.
a little bit.
Okay.
And then I need that tallest bottle right over
All
there.
right, this one. Oh.
And so what is that?
Marsala.
Marsala.
Really?
So I'd say 99 times out of 100 people eat they eat marsala and chicken marsala. Common in Italian restaurants. So we're going to just do a little glug glug in here.
And Marsala is a wine fortified.
It would be a fortified wine. Yep.
See, I've been hanging around you long enough.
You,
I'm picking
you
this
have.
stuff.
Good for you. You're gonna get we'll call it a 4.0.
Oh,
Good
thank
job.
you, thank you.
So a little bit of Marsala. Fortified wines are nice to just finish things with. You'll get the most flavor out of them. So we got our Marsala and our brown sugar, and I'll give it a taste test before I want to make sure it's perfect before you have it. all right?
Before I taste
Yeah.
it. Now you didn't. You don't have to let the alcohol cook out of that, or you want it.
That's actually one of the things with fortified wines is we want a little bit of
Okay.
that, a little bit of that
little
liquor,
in
so
there?
to speak.
Okay. What do you think?
I need another little glug glug. And actually a touch more of the brown sugar.
Oh boy, that makes it really smell good.
All right, one more stir and then it's your turn.
So a couple glug glugs. That's the
that's the-
culinary term.
That's the measurement. Put what you like. That is key. What I think you said earlier about how soups are very forgiving. It's not like baking where if we don't follow the formula, we call it formulas in school. If you don't follow the recipe exactly in baking, you're going to have terrible cookies or a terrible cake. But if we have more stock, it's just going to be a thinner soup. If we can add more whatever we want as
Well,
we
how
go.
many times have you opened the refrigerator or the cupboard and say, I've got a little of this and a little of
Yeah,
that,
that's
and end up
soup.
making a soup? Yeah,
Sure.
there's a soup.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
No, I thought that was mine.
No, that was mine. Nope, it's ready for you.
Cheat. Yeah.
You're
Oh,
set.
okay.
All right, so
You brought
obviously
lots
it
of
is
little
hot, so be
spoons.
careful.
All right, I'll give that a shot. And then we're gonna have
Plenty of
we're gonna
spoons.
want our panel to try some of this great
Sure.
soup too. Well, that just changes the whole
Isn't that?
game. That is
Yeah.
a game changer. Yeah,
That's the
absolutely.
secret. So
I wouldn't. It would have taken me forever to pinpoint that. Did you ever guess it?
no, I had to break down and say, okay, tell me. So yeah, she won that one.
Wow, delicious.
In school a lot, the students have to bring me things that I have to taste, and that's one of the fun things that I do. I like to, if they've put different things in, I try to figure it out. And there's sometimes that I'm stumped, but this one definitely stumped me.
Really
so,
good.
Because
It
I
almost
didn't even
brings
know we
out
had
the flavor
Marsala.
of the chicken.
Absolutely.
is what I'm tasting, yeah.
So that's the secret ingredient chicken noodle soup. So should we give some to our
let's-
guests?
absolutely. I
Great.
want them to try this.
All right. So you want to hand me the ladle there?
Okay.
All right. Go with that.
Here's something else I'm wondering, because I'm hearing conflicting reports now, and that's what happens when we have so much information coming at us through the internet and news reports, and we're just information based anymore. So when it comes to health, we get a lot of conflicting reports or changing reports. How many times a day should we be eating? I've heard everything from 6, and then recently I read another report that said, the 6th time thing isn't working, go back to 3 times a day. What is your opinion on that?
Well, my opinion is if you are happy eating 3 meals a day, you don't need to eat 6.
Was the idea behind the 6 meals that we were eating too much in 3 sittings?
Well, if you eat too much at one time, then your blood sugar has a tendency to go up and down. Whereas if you eat smaller amounts throughout the day, then it does slow that down or flattens out that blood sugar curve. But some people can eat the appropriate amount of food at 3 times a day and not snacks. If you snack, you have to make sure that you're not snacking above and beyond what you would eat in a meal and what you need for calories. So, what do you?
I think if you can get by with 3 meals, that's great. But you shouldn't go longer than 4 or 5 hours between meals. When you go longer than that, you tend to get extremely hungry and overeat. Right. So that's when a snack can play a good role. Another reason would be if you get too hungry going 5 hours, then certainly have a snack. But think of snacks as mini meals, not...
How many calories?
Kind of a rule of thumb is if a meal's less than 2 hours away, maybe 100 to 150. If it's more than 2 hours away, maybe closer to 200.
Are either of you a fan of any of the diets that are out there right now? If somebody really needs something they need to follow or feel like they need a little more guidance, are either of you a fan of any of the diets?
I like the DASH diet and the Mediterranean diet. I think those are scientifically sound diets. They don't eliminate any food groups. They don't promote any special products that somebody makes money off of. And they're well-balanced, healthy fats, healthy proteins.
But what you said is true. A lot of people need rules because they don't have a good understanding of calories. They don't have a good understanding of how much to eat, and so people like diets because it gives them rules to follow, and diets work. I mean, they work when you do them. The problem is they're not sustainable, and a lot of times they're not healthy. So we get caught up in this idea that we got to go on a diet.
On it and then off of it.
Yeah. And, we just need to make the kind of lifestyle changes that are part of the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet and just incorporate those kind of lifestyle changes, and you'll be better off.
I know another thing, and you and I talked about this, is the group-based mentality or the buddy system seems to work for people, whether it's your spouse or your best friend or a group of coworkers, and it's exercise and eating. It just seems to kind of bolster that idea that whether it's competition or just the idea that I have a support system.
Support.
Yeah.
Support is very important.
Even tracking your intake on some of the mobile apps like, MyFitnessPal
those
or
are
Lose It,
wonderful.
that's a great way to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, I have a few friends that are already addicted to that. It's like, I've burned this many calories and how much more I can eat today, and I've walked, 16,000 steps and that sort of thing. So, yeah, those can be great too, to sort of assist you.
That use pedometers walk more, and they tend to lose weight. So
Because it becomes a personal challenge for them.
It does.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, how are we doing?
We're doing great. We're ready to start the 3rd soup. I'm starting to wonder if our 2nd soup's going to get done, so we're going to cross our fingers.
Okay.
The sweet potatoes need to soften up, so we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see what happens. All right. So the 3rd soup. So we've gone from just a all-American chicken noodle with a little secret ingredient.
Which I'm hearing oohs and ahs coming from
How
over
we
here.
doing over there?
It's fabulous.
Like
It's
that?
very good.
Awesome.
Good. All right. Now we've gone to Africa, so now we're going to keep going east, and we're going to go to Southeast Asia to Vietnam. So I decided it might be fun to make a Vietnamese noodle soup that is very popular right now, and it's called pho. Have you ever had any pho?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Pho Van. We have a great restaurant out in the valley, Pho Saigon. I mean, it's becoming very popular. Huge bowl of steaming, wonderful broth. So once again, now we've got high protein broth, we've got noodles, we've got fresh ingredients, and it's a lot of fun it's like a make your own soup kind of thing.
Okay.
So we're gonna do that. But it's got some strange things in it, so people love it, but they probably wonder what's in it.
Okay.
So let's attempt to tell people about that. So we're going to make new stock, so we're pretending we're starting stock
Right.
again.
We
So
put
there's
all
our
our
bones.
wonderful,
so if you see a little curry there, pretend
spices
it's not
in there.
there.
Okay.
So we're going to put some spices in there. We've got something called star anise. Have you ever seen that
Smells
before?
licoricey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Smell
yeah,
that.
I love that. And it's so pretty.
It is, isn't it?
It's a beautiful spice, yeah.
Very licoricey. We also have fennel. So fennel seed right here, which is also licoricey. It seems to be common in flavor in Southeast Asian cuisine. We've got cinnamon sticks, so you probably don't see those in a stock too often, but cinnamon sticks, whole cloves, and then we're going to have some ginger and onion. So what's interesting about Vietnamese food is it's heavily influenced by French cuisine because of the French occupation of Vietnam. So when the French were there, they started adapting all these French foods with their ingredients, and so that's how it all came together. So when you have
That's interesting.
this is basically a classically made stock, but instead of using French ingredients, they're using, well, actually some French ingredients, like cloves is very French, fennel is French, but now we've got the star anise and the cinnamon, and then ginger and onions. So, the fun part now is we get to burn food. So what you do, a
Common in my house.
traditional technique in Vietnamese cooking in soups and things is you take onions and then ginger, and I just sliced up the ginger, big hunks, but expose the flesh of the ginger, and then you put it underneath the broiler for a while and burn it a little bit. So let me show you how that works.
Little char on it?
Little char, that's a
Okay.
good word. So, did this earlier, so this is what you end up with. So, you see some that's not burnt, some that's burnt, so you don't want to disintegrate it, that's not good. But we do want to, if you can imagine how much flavor here compared to here, so it brings a whole new
Well,
set
it's like
of flavors to the soup.
caramelizing it, again, without using the butter and the oils.
Absolutely.
Just under the broiler.
So yeah, I didn't add anything to it. I just cut it up and broiled it until it was this color. So that means we have to put this in here.
Okay.
So why don't you can take the tongs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got tongs for you.
All right.
Oh, that's hot. Careful.
Oh, gosh.
Here you go. All right. So we got
I do want to bring in a phone call really quick.
Oh,
we
perfect.
have a phone
Great.
call from Aliex in Canada. Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Do you have a question for our panel?
Yes, of course. And then my question, it was, well, I try to tell you, I'm a 60-year-old diabetic, no, a 60-year-old man, diabetic for the past 9 years, no family history in diabetics. Probably everything came out when I was stressed out. When my wife died, and 1 year ago I started losing weight. I would like you to tell me something about not losing weight, gaining weight.
Are you at a point, Aliex, where you need to put on some pounds?
Yes, I would like to. I used to be, well,
I think we may have lost Aliex. But he does make an excellent point. Not everybody needs to lose weight. There are some people that need to add a few pounds for their health, and they want to do that, again, just as you would to lose weight on the healthy side. So what's the best way to go about that?
Well,
Eat more calories.
I mean, I know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, yeah. Eating more calories, but again, on the healthy side.
Healthy fats.
healthy fats are, yeah, because they're more dense calories, and so it's easier to put on weight when you eat fat than it is.
So some
carbohydrate
examples?
I think like peanut butter, nut butters, nuts, using a little bit more olive oil, like maybe putting a little oil on your vegetables to add some extra calories.
And he does have that health concern of diabetes coming into play. Is he okay with those healthy oils?
He is.
adding
Very
those?
good, yeah. Avocados is another one.
Avocados, which are getting a lot of play in the last week. Just came out with a new study about avocados, how healthy they are. But again, calorie dense too.
Very
so,
calorie
yeah.
dense.
Okay, so we're going to keep going with those unique spices. So
Okay.
we've got star anise going in, we've got a cinnamon stick going in, a couple cloves, and then we'll get all that fennel
Are
in
these
there.
expensive spices? Star anise?
Absolutely not.
Oh.
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Now, star anise definitely
Little
is.
spendy.
But what I find is if you go to bulk bins, like Fred Meyer, Winco, Huckleberries, they have it all in bulk. And so I went and bought 4 star anise. I didn't have to buy a whole jar and spend $10 or $12. I think all the spices for all these soups was less than $4. So this is one of the traps we get into. We go, oh, we got to buy all these spices, so we go to the store and then we spend
And then
30
we never
bucks.
use, or we don't use them for
Well,
months,
yeah.
and they can actually lose their punch if they sit in the cupboard too long.
Absolutely, yeah. They do not do well sitting in
Yeah,
your cupboard
you
for
don't
4
wanna do
years.
that.
Or 20, or however.
I think I have some in the back of my cupboard, yeah, that could easily be on the 20
All
year
right.
mark.
So the next thing that has to go in here is, now we're going to add another kind of meat. So when you make stocks, you don't always have to do only chicken or only beef. So we're going to add some beef to this because we want some beef that's going to go in the soup later. So we're going to have a mix of chicken and beef. So got a couple different options here. And this also enabled me to go to one of my favorite spots. Have you ever been to the Sonnenberg's Market down on
Yes.
Sprague,
Yeah,
local meat
great
market?
place.
So that's where I go when I need to get. Have you ever seen oxtails?
I've seen them, but never cooked with them, so I'm interested in this. yeah.
Okay. So in the recipe, I mentioned that we're going to put some beef in there, but we want bones because we're adding more of that flavor from the bones and that gelatinous texture that you talked about. So oxtails are excellent for that. They have tons of gelatin and tons of flavor. So an oxtail, people sometimes get a little bit weird
It's a little
about
freaky.
it. But I mean, whether you want to eat a shoulder of an animal or a tail or a shank, it's all bone and meat. So
Okay.
we can get over that. So oxtails are wonderful flavor. And then another option is what you either call shin or shank meat. So this is a good example of you see the bone in there, so this was cut from the leg, so when this simmers in the stock, we're going to get all this wonderful meat and all this wonderful flavor from the bone. Now all these meats are tough as nails, so that's why it has to cook overnight and get
That's why
tender,
they're good
fall
for
apart
soup,
tender.
so you
Sure,
can
sure.
cook them
A lot of
down.
flavor, but you definitely, it's going to take a while. So for this one, we'll just go ahead and why don't you go ahead
Okay.
and drop that in there.
All right.
And we've got our burned onions and ginger. Oh, is that sticking here?
No, just a little. I can pry it off of there.
Perfect.
There we go.
Okay. And then all you do is, now we're kind of finishing off the demo, so to speak,
Okay,
is
and again, just covering it with water.
covering it with water.
It's not
Wonder
really
if I
one
have
of those
enough
things
water.
you can measure. Well, we
All right,
can.
see if you
we
can
can
nestle
wiggle.
that
I
down
can
in
wiggle.
there.
I got enough wiggle on me here. I can do it. You know, the other thing I'm hearing a lot about, and it's become another popular thing, is to detox. And some people will do that to jumpstart a healthier way of eating, to get toxins out of their body. I'd like both of your opinions on detoxing, and there's a number of different ways to do that. But are you a fan at all of detoxing, or do you believe that it works?
Do you want to start?
You know what? I can't speak to that, Teresa. I don't
Well-
have an opinion.
So, what are we detoxing? You know,
Well, that's what I'm always
I mean,
wondering.
you
What's
know,
in my
actually,
system I need to get out?
You know, I've seen a lot of people talk about toxins that build up in your body. Well, if you're eating a lot of foods that have a lot of chemicals and stuff in them, yeah, you would detox. But how would you detox? You just eat regular food, you know, real whole food. And
our body naturally does that if we are taking
yeah.
care of it and nourishing it.
That's the job of our liver.
But I think most people think about detoxing because they overeat. They eat too much, and so they just feel not very good, and they just feel, heavy and sluggish and tired. And when they eat better, they feel better, and they equate that, I think, with less toxins in their body. But I don't really know I don't know that they've ever really defined what toxins are. And in fact, people will go on these diets that are, very low carbohydrate, high protein diets, and you actually can build up some toxin ketones, some not so healthy things in their diet by not eating too. So, it just comes down to going back to whole, real foods and eating those. And if you do that all the time, you don't really have to detox because there's nothing to detox.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. We have another phone call coming in from Moses Lake. Lewis, good evening.
Hi.
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm watching your show and drinking lots of liquid.
There you go.
I exercise on the bike. My question is, there's always studies coming out that say eat this or don't eat this. Be sure and eat a lot of this or don't eat so much of that. I'd like some guidance in how one decides whether it's worth listening to that study. Every time a study comes out, you can't just bounce around to something new. So how does one decide whether it's valuable to pay attention to a study and actually change one's habits?
That's an excellent question, and it goes back to we're so information-based. We're inundated with information. How do we filter it out and really get to the meat of it, so to speak, and decide what's good?
I like to look at things from a scientific point of view. Who did the research? Is it scientifically based? Is it peer-reviewed? Does it eliminate whole food groups? If it does, then you don't want to follow a diet that eliminates food groups. So I think peer-reviewed scientific studies are your best bet. And also, if they're selling a product, it's like who's making the money off of the product?
Mm-hmm. I agree. When they start talking about eliminating things or don't eat this, you see that pop up on your computer all the time. Don't eat this, or the 5 foods never to eat. When you get into processed foods, that's where, yes, let's try to eliminate processed foods. But if somebody says, don't eat a banana or don't eat
fruit with grains or
the combination.
Or don't eat carbohydrates.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Because there really is no bad guy when it comes to food, is there?
Especially fruits and vegetables, and that's one that, because it's carbohydrate, they're basically carbohydrate, and there's these low carbohydrate diets but fruits and vegetables is where all your vitamins are. I mean, that's those colorful fruits and vegetables. And so, when you look at these lists that say, eat this, eat this, eat this, well, most all fruits and vegetables have some quality in them that is good.
Even the white ones.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with those. So
even the white ones.
Do you find a challenge at your house because you are a type 1 diabetic? Your wife is not, I assume?
No, she's not. So
is there a challenge then in how you cook? And that can be in a lot of families where one person might have one health concern, another might not have a health concern. When it comes down to that?
Thankfully, it's pretty easy at our house. My wife is trained as a chef as well. She's not a chef now, but she works in the food service industry. She's actually heavily involved in gluten-free foods and gluten-free baking mixes and things like that. But she's a great cook. I'm a good cook. So she's a better cook than I am sometimes. But so we share it. So I think what
you have found that balance.
Right. We share the cooking pretty equally. We're always cooking in our home.
And you love food.
We like
you appreciate
everything.
food.
Yeah, there's very few things that
we don't food
like.
enough.
So we try to have variety. And like we said earlier, try to eat less and eat. It doesn't mean you can't eat a steak or eat something that might have a little more fat, but we can eat less of that and a lot more vegetables.
Yeah.
So once again, we don't have to eliminate it, just moderate it. So we do pretty well at our house. I always am happy that we use our kitchen. I sometimes walk into other kitchens and they look all pretty, and I don't think anybody cooks in here.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't. One of the things that we need to change. Let's bring Rose in from Spokane. Rose has a phone call. Good evening, Rose.
Hi, big fan, Curtis.
Thank you.
So I had a question. These 3 soups, Are they pretty time consuming, or is there a way you can speed it up if you're on the go, you need to hurry and make stuff?
Well, I think what's unique about these soups is, in one sense, they're not quick, because what I'm describing is cooking something overnight. But I think it's very simple. If you're done eating dinner, if you have a crock pot, all you do is dump those bones in there, cover it, turn it on, and go to bed.
You're cooking when you're sleeping.
Right. So then
That's the best part.
Once you get up even the next day, and I've been known to wait till dinner the next day to pour it out too. So it doesn't have to happen first thing in the morning. If you want to add a little bit more water and just let it go till dinner, you're going to be fine as well. But I tried to make the recipes fairly simple. Once you have that stock, really all I'm doing is dumping things in the pan and cooking it till it's tender. I think we're actually going to get our sweet potatoes to be tender.
And I think we're going to want to start sampling a little of that.
Okay.
Because we are starting to run a little short on time, and I want our dietitians, our nutritionists to taste this wonderful soup and get their opinion.
All right, so let's see, where'd our ladle go? Did it run away from us?
You had it last. You had it last.
Did I? All right, well, let's do this. I've got a spoon. It'll be all right. So I've been using one
I
of
don't know
my
where our
favorite
ladle
tools, my potato masher, just to continue mashing this. You'll see some recipes that call for pureeing and all that. And
I was going to say, can I use my immersion blender in there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Although with this one, I like to keep the kale
That's true.
kind of in chunks. So I like the brothiness. So before you take it over, we're going to garnish it.
Oh,
So why
absolutely.
don't you want to do that one?
Sure.
And I'll get our peanuts and cilantro. So we've got the peanut butter, but we're going to add more peanuts for texture.
Okay. And again, just a few of those because they're a little calorie packed. So if you're trying to watch your weight. Mm-hmm. All right.
All right, so there's a little cilantro.
And for our gentleman that was trying to gain some weight, throw a few extra in there.
Yeah, there you go.
Some
Absolutely.
peanuts, and that is
And I
ready
love
to go.
cilantro is one of those things that just brightens up anything.
It does. I love it. I hated
my
it when I was a
fave.
kid.
Did you really?
Then I
love
just
it.
grew to love it.
Just
so I love
it.
cilantro.
Okay, ladies. I think you're going to like this.
It looks beautiful.
Isn't that pretty?
Thank you.
Yeah,
It
it
is pretty.
presents so wonderful too. Again, going to all those senses that we're trying to get in touch with.
All right. And so that's our African peanut, kale, and sweet potato soup that I hear.
That's very good.
Okay, good. So we're actually
reviews.
pretty close to being done with our Vietnamese noodle soup. Because most of what we're going to add is they're going to add it themselves as much as they want. So we cooked some rice noodles in advance, and I have an example of what your bones may look like when they're all done. So at this point, all we do is let it cool a little bit, and then all you do is just pick the meat apart.
It's
and
going
then,
to just kind of fall off of there?
Yeah, if it's cooked overnight or until dinner the next day, it's going to be very, very tender. So all we do is we're gonna pick that apart. I'll chop it a little bit, and then we're going to, once that's on top, we'll just ladle over this hot broth. But we have a couple more ingredients to add. So one of them traditionally is a little sugar. So I've got a little sugar going in. So it's got that cinnamon and a little bit of sugar, plus all those other unique aromatics will really make it special. And then we have to have that little brown bottle right over there.
Okay.
Tell me if you've ever had that before.
No. Oh, yeah, actually I have. Fish sauce.
Fish sauce.
Yeah. That's a great flavor.
So this is what's Southeast Asian soy sauce. So fish sauce goes in everything. And so this tends to be one other ingredient that people sometimes get afraid
Because
of.
it doesn't tast fishy necessarily. I mean, it's got a little bit of a...
It smells like stinky stalks right now. But what's unusual about it, we're not going to drink it. When you are cooking with Vietnamese cuisine or Thai cuisine, if you make something and it tastes great, it's amazing how you just get a little bit of fish sauce in there and all of a sudden
Boom.
It's that umami, that fifth taste that just makes it super deluxe.
All right.
So we've got to add some fish sauce to it.
It's a few sprinkles.
Yeah,
Is that a sort of to taste thing? If I wanted a little bit more, I could add a little bit more?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Or
You know, one
you
of
could
the-
put it on the table and have somebody
Use
add
it as
how much
your-
they want, for sure,
okay.
yeah. So let me taste
One of the
that
great
and we'll
things
be
about
set.
the Inland Northwest Culinary Academy is over a year ago, you started these Inca After Dark programs,
Yep.
which I love because it's an opportunity for one night to go in, learn how to cook a great dish, and you've got one on soups coming up. Unfortunately, that one's already sold out, but some
Yep.
great classes just to spend an evening with a group of people, learn, some great techniques.
Right.
And this is getting people back to scratch cooking too.
Right. So up until a year ago, all we could say when people, like friends of my parents would say, "Oh, I want to come and take a class,"
Yeah.
I'd have to say, "Oh, do you want to come for 2 years?" Which
can keep you
usually
in.
was not the answer they wanted to hear. So now you can drop in for an evening, and all right. So here's a little
Okay.
beef on
We've
each
got
one.
about a minute left
All
in
right.
the show.
So that'll be
Flying
perfect.
by.
So
How
once
do you
again,
find out
we'll.
about those classes?
What's
How do you
that?
find out about those
You know
classes?
what? We've actually, I'm glad you asked. We've added a link to ksps.org with the Inca After Dark
go.
class schedule coming up. Some great classes.
It's
Okay,
ready. They can taste that, and we'll
excellent.
just finish in time.
I love this. So what kind of noodles did you use?
These are rice noodles. So once again, gluten-free. And there you go. And I'll get one for you.
We are feeding you
lined up.
well this evening.
Yes, you are.
This is how I get guests to come back to the show. Feed
All
them.
right, so let's make sure I hear what you have to think
Oh,
before
absolutely.
we're
I'm
done.
ready to dig
Grab a
in.
spoon
The
and
problem
dig
I
in.
get into is that I'm eating and I can't talk, but I'll test at least a little of the broth here. Oh, see, that has a whole different
Wow.
richness
Isn't
to
that
it.
amazing? So now
Yeah.
here, taste it with a little lime
Oh my
juice. And
gosh.
it's getting even better.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Then you get a little scallions in there. And you pile it in. I
Oh, how
love the
pretty.
bean
Wow.
sprouts.
Oh, I do
and then
too.
A little
Then you
bit
get a
of
little
basil,
crunch with it too.
And
I'm getting
you're
spoiled.
set.
The ladies don't get this. I'm getting spoiled.
Oh, I've got some for them. I'll be over there in a moment.
So good.
Isn't that good?
Yeah, that is
So
really
rich
good.
and filling, and just want to drink it.
Yeah, you
Love
do.
that stuff.
You do. You're going to fill right up on that.
For sure.
You brought a couple of students. I want to thank them tonight
Great.
because they were working so hard in helping you prepare for this evening. Ladies, why don't you step in and
Come on
Chef
in.
Curtis can introduce you real quickly and thank you for your hard work tonight because the Inland Northwest Culinary Academy, just a great resource
Yep.
in our community. You do a lot of dinners, that the students participate in and
Right.
they really jump into it. They really get into
They
it.
sure do. We run our restaurant, but then we have lots of night events and things where they can, further their education. They can come in and help with Inca After Dark classes, and they can take advantage of those things. So Joy and Cynthia came with me today, and they were invaluable in helping me unload my car and get all set up, and they did a lot of the chopping and things. So they help me, or they make me look good.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
pleasure
Thank you,
working with
ladies.
them.
Thanks so much for
Thank
being
you.
here and helping out. And Chef Curtis, thank you for being
You're
here.
welcome.
Delicious recipes. I think we can agree we can all make these. It was very simple. Again, maybe spend some time on a Saturday or Sunday, get them in the fridge for the rest of the week.
Sure.
The recipes are posted at ksps.org. And that is going to wrap things up for us tonight. Again, thanks so much to my guests
you're
for
welcome.
being
Thanks.
here. And next month, we're going to be focusing on teen health, a very important topic when we have Health Matters on February 19th. So for all of us at KSPS, thanks so much for being here. Good night.
Health Matters is made possible by viewers like you, the friends of KSPS, and by the following.
My name is Beth Perez, and I am a registered nurse, and I work at Holy Family Hospital on the labor and delivery unit. I'm about to have my second child, and I chose Providence because I love and trust the people that I work with, and why wouldn't I seek care from people that I love and trust?
I'm Arnie Peterson, and I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and I work at Sacred Heart for Providence Medical Group. When I needed my hip replaced, I chose Providence because of the professionalism and the care that I knew I'd receive. I never thought twice about going anywhere else.